and I'm going to be one of the instructors for your Anatomy and Physiology class, Bio 201. And this is going to be your first video lecture. Hopefully you've already watched the orientation video and you know how this course is set up. But this will be your first of your lectures, and this is going to be part of your lecture material, so this is what you're going to be studying for your exam. So the first thing we're going to talk about, I just want to introduce what anatomy and physiology is. So let me get my pen. You're going to see us say this a lot. We have to get a little pen started, so hang on just a minute. I'll get it set up. It won't let me do it earlier. Okay. I'm going to just introduce the topic of anatomy and physiology. A lot of people take anatomy and physiology, but they don't really know what it means. Alright, maybe it's going to work this time. Okay. So what is anatomy? A lot of people think, okay, I'm going to take this mysterious class called anatomy and physiology, but what exactly does that mean? Anatomy, I like to think of this class as the where is it and what does it do. So anatomy is the study of structure, and you can put location. So where is it? Where is it located in the body? What does it look like? What is it made out of? In the physiology, is how does it work? How does it work? When we talk about anatomy, there's a lot of ways to talk about anatomy. We can talk about gross anatomy, and I don't mean, ooh, that's nasty. I mean big anatomy, like your entire body. Or you can talk about microscopic anatomy, how small, using a microscope. When we talk about gross anatomy or macroscopic, which means large, we're talking about regions, we're talking about organ systems, we're talking about surfaces. So we're talking about like the integumentary system, the cardiovascular system, the whole frontal or ventral region, the anterior region, or the whole dorsal, which is your back, or your posterior region. We may be talking about the superior region, which is all the stuff up top. We may talk about the inferior region, all the things that are below, down, below that level of the head. So we use these as big terms. We may study anatomy microscopically using a microscope, and when we use a microscope, we call that cytology or histology. Anytime you see this prefix cyte, that means cell, so you're looking at the cell level. If you see this prefix like histo, you're looking at it at the tissue level. And you can also look at anatomy developmentally. How do things change over time? It's called embryology. So from the time the sperm and the egg come together to form the baby, you can see how these tissues change, how these organ systems change, and how the human develops over time. Now, once we know where it is and what it looks like, we want to know what does it do, and that's the physiology. And typically, we study physiology based on the organ systems. We'll study the integumentary, or the skin. We'll study the skeletal, the bones, the muscular system. We'll study the cardiovascular system, which is the heart and the blood vessels, respiratory. So we'll study each one of these systems individually. But importantly, we're going to study how they work together. It doesn't really do us any good to know what a system does unless we know how it relates to other systems. So when we talk about A&P, anatomy and physiology, there's something called the principle of complementarity. And basically that means they go together. You can't have one without the other. Okay? It also means that form follows function. That means you have to know what it does, and its form is usually going to make sense. It's going to allow that organ to do what it needs to do. For example, the function of the cardiovascular system, your heart and vessels, is to transport oxygen and other nutrients throughout the body. Well, if you want to transport something throughout the body, you need a pump and you need some vessels. That's exactly what the cardiovascular system is. You have a pump, which is the heart, and you have a series of tubes, which are the vessels. So form follows function. So each time we talk about something, think about, does that make sense? Does it look like it would do what it's supposed to do? Does its form follow its function? When we talk about anatomy, we have to think about it from the smallest level all the way up to the biggest level. And we call this basically its levels of organization. Okay? And we're going to talk about these different levels as we go through the semester. We're going to spend a whole chapter on several of them. The first level is your chemical level, your atoms and your molecules, things like oxygen, carbon, water, all your small chemical things. And we're going to do that in Chapter 2. Your cellular level, the cells and their parts. Organelles are the parts of cells. Talk about tissues, which are groups of similar cells. Talk about organs, like heart. Talk about organ systems, like the cardiovascular system is the heart and the blood vessels. And we're going to talk about the organismal level, which is all the organs put together to make a person. So this is a nice little schematic to kind of help you get this organized. And I can just go ahead and tell you, somewhere on your exam, there's going to be something that has you basically list these things from least complex to most complex, or most complex to least complex. So you basically, this is one of those you got to know. You got to know the levels of organization. Let's start at the chemical level. So the chemical level is made up of atoms. Atoms join together to make molecules. For example, an atom would be something like oxygen and hydrogen. Put oxygen together, you get H2O, that's water. You take these molecules, a molecule it could be a protein, it could be a lipid, which is a fat, it could be a carbohydrate or a sugar. You take these molecules, put those together, and those make organelles. And organelles are basically the parts of the cell. So let's draw an old-fashioned cell. This is a cell. That big thing in the middle that holds the DNA, that's the nucleus. That's an organelle. There's some things called mitochondria. They make energy. There's some things called endoplasmic reticulum. All those little parts of the cell are called organelles. You can use the word baby organ. It's like the baby organs of the cell. Those organelles come together to make an actual cell. That's the cellular level, and this is my example cell. You put a lot of cells that are the same together. So you take a smooth muscle cell, put a lot of them together, you get smooth muscle tissue. So all your tissues, your skin, connective tissue, hyaline cartilage, all your tissues are made of the same type of cell. Take tissues, put them together, several different types of tissue, and you get an organ. For example, this is basically a blood vessel, and the blood vessel is going to have an epithelial layer, which we'll talk about in a few weeks, which is a different type of tissue. It's got a muscle layer, which is a type of tissue, and it's got a connective layer, which is a type of tissue. So if you put two or more types of tissues together, you get an organ. When you take those organs and put several organs together, you get an organ system. Again, this is the cardiovascular system. Here's your heart, which is an organ. Here's your vessels, which are organs. Put those together. It makes the organ system, the cardiovascular system. You put your cardiovascular system, you add some bones, some skin, some muscle, heart, lungs, digestive system, put all that together, and you have an organism. So this takes some time to kind of play with that. There's a little drag and drop in your Blackboard shell that you can play with to kind of get used to this organization chart. Alright, so we've talked about organization. Now we're going to go back and we're going to talk about the organ systems. And I've kind of got a nice little mini review of all the organ systems. You're going to go into a lot more detail as you go through 201 and 202 on each system, but this is kind of the need to know right now. The first system is your integumentary system, which basically is your skin, your hair, and your nails. And what I want you to know is I want you to know the name of the systems. I want you to know where they are, some examples, what makes up, which organs make up each system, and a function. What do they do? And I've got most of this in this little paragraph for you. So the integumentary system, that's the name. Where is it? It's all over your outside covering. It's what you can see. It's your skin, your hair, your nails. Examples, skin, hair, nails. What does it do? It's your external body covering. But it has some other functions as well. It gives you protection. Your skin is a protective layer. It also has a metabolic function. That means it makes something. And it makes, helps you make vitamin D. When UV light, sunlight hits your skin, helps you make vitamin D. It also has receptors. It allows us to perceive our environment. We know if things are hot, things are cold, if we're in pain, if there's pressure. And we also have glands in our skin that allow us to sweat glands, and it helps us to thermoregulate. When you get hot, you sweat. So the skin is more than just what you see. Beauty is more than skin deep. There's a lot of things going on in the skin. The next system is the skeletal system. I'm going to cover that in 201. And the skeletal system is your bones and your joints. So the joints are basically where the bones come together. And where they are, they're all over your body. You've got them in your back, your arms, your skull is a bone, your leg bones. So bones are everywhere. They're your support system. That's their function. They make the framework for your muscles. When you move, that's your muscle contracting. And when your muscle contracts, it moves the bones. And so the skeleton is the framework for those muscles to work. We also use the bones. They have some hollow spaces in them, and that's where we have marrow. And that's where we make our blood cells. So your red cells, your white blood cells, those are made inside your bone. And the bone itself, it's a hard, if you've seen bone, it's like a rock. That's a place where we store calcium. So it stores minerals. We store calcium in our bones. That's what makes the bones hard. Okay, the muscular system. That's basically for movement. You have muscles all over the place. You've seen this, you pump iron, you use your muscles. They allow us to move. They hold us up, maintain our posture. We can use them to smile, to frown. And when we shiver, they produce heat. So they're very important. Now, let me say one little thing about muscles. We actually have three types. We have skeletal muscle, which is what you use to move bone. That's what you're used to when you work out and get exercise. We also have cardiac muscle, and that's the actual muscle that makes up the heart, what pumps and moves your blood. And then we have what's called smooth muscle. And smooth muscle is anywhere you have a tube, like inside your digestive system or inside your arteries. That's the muscle that helps to move food through your digestive system or to help move blood through your tubes. So you have skeletal muscle, smooth bone, cardiac muscle, which is what the heart uses to pump blood, and smooth muscle inside the tubes. The next system is the nervous system. Sorry, I had a little interruption. There was at the door. Okay, so the nervous system. This is your brain. Whoa, no. Let me get my pen back. Might as well get used to it. It's going to happen a lot this semester. You're going to see us try to use this machine and see it goes up, so just get used to it. Okay, so the brain, the nerves, and the spinal cord. So the brain is inside your skull, in your head. Your spinal cord runs down your back, inside your vertebra, down your backbone. And then the nerves, they come off the spinal cord, and there's also some nerves that come off the brain. It is your control center. It is in control of everything. We use it for thought, and memory. We use it to control our muscles. It controls glands. It responds. So anything that we do, our brain's doing it all for us. And it's very fast. It's incredibly fast. I'm talking right now, and I'm writing, and I'm looking at the camera, and I'm thinking about what I got to say next. And my brain is doing all that at the same time, instantaneously. So it's an incredibly fast system. The next system is called the endocrine system, and it's also a control. It's also for control, but it's really slow. Now, the main difference between the nervous system and the endocrine system is the brain basically uses electricity. It uses impulses, which is basically little pulses of electricity your body kind of generates. We'll talk about how that works, but it's almost like a little bit of electricity that comes from your brain and down your spinal cord out to your nerves, and that's the signal. So it uses these impulses to signal, and they're very, very fast. Now, the endocrine system, it uses hormones. And hormones are basically made by glands, and these are some samples of some of the glands in the body here, and I'll talk about those. These hormones are made by glands, and they're released into the blood. And then they have to travel through the blood till they get to the organ that they're supposed to cause to do something. And so that takes a while. It can take, a couple of minutes or hours or even months. Think about you girls out there, think about your menstrual cycle. That's a monthly thing that's going on. So it's in control. The endocrine system does help you control things, helps you maintain what's called homeostasis, which hopefully you guys are going to watch that video really soon and understand what that means. But that's basically how our body maintains a relatively stable internal environment. So we use our hormones and our nervous system to do that. Some examples of some endocrine system glands. You have your pineal gland, which is inside your brain. You have your pituitary, your thyroid, your thymus, your adrenal gland, which is right here, your pancreas, testes in the male, ovaries in the female. Pineal gland, we'll talk about these when we talk about the nervous system. You'll also do it in 202 when you talk about endocrine system, but just kind of briefly, has to do with sleep-wake cycle. The pituitary is an incredibly complex hormone. It does a lot, so we'll get into that later. Thyroid, that's basically metabolism. You've probably heard somebody be hypothyroid, they're kind of sluggish, or hyperthyroid, they're really revved up. So that's how their metabolism works. The thymus has to do with your immune system. Your adrenal gland has to do, it makes adrenaline or epinephrine. So you'll see it kind of kick in, and if you're under stress, you need to think about trying to pick up the bus. Maybe the bus is falling on your best friend, you want to pick the bus up, you need extra adrenaline and an adrenaline rush. That's what your adrenal gland does. It does other things as well, but that one maybe you can have that stick in your head for a while. The pancreas, use it to control blood sugar, makes insulin. And all of these things do a whole lot more than what I'm telling you. This is just a nice introduction. And then the ovary and the testes, these are your sex glands, makes your sex hormones. The ovary makes estrogen. And your testes make testosterone. All right, your cardiovascular system. You got your heart, and you got your blood vessels. And the job of the cardiovascular system is to transport blood. And inside of that blood, you're going to have oxygen, carbon dioxide, you have nutrients, any waste that you need to get rid of. That's its job. It's located everywhere in your body has blood vessels. Now, when we talk about these blood vessels, we talk about arteries and veins. Arteries always take blood away from the heart, and veins always carry blood to the heart. So vein spelled V-E-I-N takes blood into the heart, so it takes it to the heart. So arteries take blood away from the heart. So in this case, here's your heart. The blood leaving the heart is through the aorta, this red thing. The blood leaves the heart, travels to the body, goes out to the periphery, and then the blood comes back up through this blue thing, which is called the vena cava, and back into the heart. And then you have your lymphatic system and your immune system. And some books will separate these into two systems, and for our purposes, we're going to kind of put them together because the lymphatic system and the immune system kind of work together. And basically, the lymphatic system is almost like a second set of plumbing. It kind of runs parallel to your arteries and veins. And so your tissues, all your cells that's kind of between the arteries and veins, they're bathed in something called, interstitial fluid. And so this fluid has to be cleaned and recycled and dealt with. And so this extra tissue fluid will basically be draining into the lymph vessels. And then inside the lymph nodes, you've got little, basically, cells, immune cells, that will kind of clean it, make sure there's nothing that needs to be dealt with. If you've ever had an infection and you feel a doctor feels in your neck or maybe up under your arm feeling for like a lymph node, he's feeling for an infection to see if maybe those lymph nodes are enlarged and if they're acting to fight off infections. Other parts of the immune system are the thymus and the red marrow inside your bone. That's where you make the white blood cells, which help you fight off infection. And also the spleen. A lot of people think the spleen is part of the digestive system. It's really not. It's part of the lymphatic and the immune system. And we'll have more on that again as we go through 201 and 202. The respiratory system, your lungs, that's your respiratory system. And the parts of the respiratory system include the nasal cavity and the pharynx, which is the back of your throat, your larynx, which is your voice box, where your vocal cords are, the trachea, which is the tube that the air comes down from the mouth into the lungs, and then the trachea will divide into basically a bronchus, which divides the air into each lung, and then it divides again into what's called bronchioles, and we'll talk about that when we talk about what you're going to learn about for labs. You have a left and a right lung, and inside those lungs is where you exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. Got to have it. You've got to be able to breathe. You have your digestive system, and basically that's just how you eat, how the food comes in, and how it's processed, and how it's absorbed, and then how we eliminate any waste that we need to. Parts of the digestive system include the mouth, the oral cavity, the esophagus. So remember, the trachea is for air, the esophagus is for food. The liver, the stomach, your small and large intestine, and then the rectum and the anus. So food enters the mouth, goes down the esophagus, and into the stomach. The liver helps to process. It makes some enzymes and things like that to help you process the food. The food then goes into the small intestine, goes through the small intestine, then it goes to the large intestine, out the rectum, then out the anus, where it exits the body. That's just how we take food and make it digest it and make it usable. We have the urinary system, and this is our kidneys. The ureters, which take urine from the kidneys to the bladder, then the urethra, which takes the urine from the bladder outside. And basically, the job of the kidneys is to filter the blood. And we use, so when your blood needs to be basically cleaned, it goes through your kidneys and is filtered. And the excess, either water or waste, whatever needs to be eliminated, is turned into urine, and then we store that urine into the bladder until it's a convenient time to go and void our bladder and urinate. And it's very important in regulating our water balance, how much water we have, our electrolytes, which is basically sodium. I'll spell that out for you because you probably don't know that yet. Sodium, and how we balance our acids and our bases. We have acids and bases inside of our body, and we have to regulate that. And last but not least, we have the reproductive system. And the reproductive system is, we have a male and a female, and hopefully you guys are a little familiar with this. In the male, it includes the penis, the testes, the scrotum is basically the sac around the testes, a prostate gland, some ductwork that gets the sperm from the inside to the outside. In the female, you have mammary glands or your breast tissue where milk is made. You have your ovaries where you make your eggs. The uterine tubes, which you've probably learned as fallopian tubes, is the same thing. How the egg gets from the ovary into the uterus. The uterus is where the baby grows. And the vagina is how the baby would exit from the uterus to the outside. And so the main role of reproduction is to make reproductive hormones, testosterone and estrogen, and a few more as well, but those are the main ones. And then to make the sperm and egg. The female makes the egg, the male makes the sperm. Put an egg and sperm together and you have a baby. Alright. I know this is a long video. I'm going to try to keep most of them shorter than this, but there's a lot of things to talk about to get you started in A&T. So when we talk about each one of those systems, I want you to not think of these just as separate systems all the time. I want you to also be thinking how these systems work together, because we're not just one system. All of these systems work together. Every system depends on every other system in order to survive. You can't make it without them all working. Like right now, I'm talking. I'm using my respiratory system to make the air that I'm breathing, but I'm also using that air to speak. I'm moving my bones and my muscles as I'm writing with my pen. I'm using my nervous system. I can see you. I can hear myself. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I just had lunch, so I'm digesting my food in my digestive system, and I've been drinking water, so pretty soon I'm going to have to go to the bathroom. So all these systems are working together so that I can sit here and give you this video. And you're sitting there at home, taking notes, probably snacking on some popcorn or something, cheese and crackers, drinking a beer, who knows, doing something, watching me, and all your systems are active at the same time. It's an incredibly complex thing that's going on, but you guys will understand it by the end of 202. So this is kind of my last thing to say. This is a figure from your book, and it kind of shows you how all these organ systems are working together. So make sure you take a little bit of time to study this diagram. And I'm going to walk through it briefly, but you guys need to really, take some time, look at this diagram, and understand what's going on. Basically, what's happening is we're going to say this is food. It can also be water. H2O means water. It's going to come into the mouth and down the esophagus, into the stomach, and into the small intestine. Now, once you're in the small intestine, SI, small intestine, the nutrients, the water, whatever you need, is absorbed into the bloodstream. Okay? So that's two systems. You have your digestive system and your cardiovascular system. Your heart then helps to move that blood with its nutrients through the body. On its way to taking that nutrients where it needs to go, it's going to go to the lungs, get some oxygen, drop off some CO2, which is a waste product. It's going to carry this blood. If it has some things that need to be gotten rid of, it's going to take that blood, filter it through the kidneys, get rid of any excess as urine, so any extra water you don't need goes out as urine. And it's going to take this oxygen, this nutrients, this clean blood out to the cells. Let's just pretend maybe this is a muscle. It's going to drop off the sugars, fats, whatever nutrients it's taken. It's going to drop off the oxygen. It's going to pick up whatever waste products the muscles have made. It's going to pick up the waste products and take them around in the blood again so that it can be rejuvenated with more oxygen, get rid of CO2, and allow the kidneys to filter it. So all this is going on at the same time. So it's going to be a little hard right now to understand this, but just every time you learn a new system, think about how that system is working with other systems. And I'll help you do it as you go through the semester. That's all I'm going to say today. Good luck. Take some time. This is chapter 1. Don't read the whole chapter all at once. Kind of break it up. Read a little bit. Put it aside. Watch a video. Read some more. Put it aside. And if you have any questions, you can email me. You can call me. Stop by my office. Again, I'm Nicole Mashburn, and I will see you the rest of the semester. Have a good day.